What am I saying? Who are you? What's your name?
I don't know.
What do people
I don't know.
need to know?
Maybe we should go and listen to other podcasts and see how they start. Hello, welcome to La Pod. It's a brand new podcast we're going to be putting out from down here in the basement of La Pub twice a month. We're going to be talking to our staff, our community, local bands, local artists, and anyone we think is interesting.
Yes, welcome to episode number 8 of La Pod. And we've got a good one, as usual. I've said before that we spoil you a lot, but this just takes the biscuit. Especially in terms of guests. I would do the whole, not one, not two, but I'd be here forever, because we have 5 guests for you this week. 5 guests. And they're all from the recent Live Now festival, which was like an online streamed festival straight from the pub. The closest thing that anyone really has had to a live show in a very long time. And if you didn't see it, I would highly recommend checking it out, because it was class. It was the first time that we at the pub had done anything in the kind of streaming world, and in my obviously unbiased opinion, we smashed it. Like it was good, to say the least. It's still available over on our Facebook page, and I think it's there if you type in Live Now Festival as well. And the concept of this episode was that I was going to be there to interview them directly after coming off stage from their set. But the night before all this happened, yet another lockdown was imposed upon us, so that was kind of gotten rid of, and instead I interviewed them still straight after they got off stage, but again via the magic of Zoom. So yeah, it was really cool. I'll give you a quick rundown of all the artists that took part in the festival, starting with MADI. MADI is a Welsh singer, songwriter, artist, producer, general creative person of self-described weirdo pop. Sums it up perfectly. I can see why she called it weirdo pop, because that's what it is. Think of like St. Vincent kind of stuff, Kimbra. Yeah, and you won't go far wrong. She was amazing. She won Best Solo Act at the Cardiff Music Awards 2019. Which gives you an idea of the quality of her material. And yeah, you can see why from her set at Live Now. Up next, we had Toodles and the Hectic Pity. What a band name. Toodles and the Hectic Pity. I chatted to Callum, who's the singer and the guitarist, and they are a folk-punk-emo trio from Bristol. Yeah, like a triple-barreled genre to describe them. And again, you can see why their songs just go like all over the place in the absolute best way possible. They're just, 1 minute it's fast, 1 minute it's slow, 1 minute it's dark, 1 minute it's just kind of light and airy, like it's class. And we talk about that in the interview a little bit, about how they don't like to get bogged down in one kind of song type or dynamic. And yeah, you can see that in all their material. Up next, number 3, we have Mogan. He does DIY bedroom electronica, and he describes himself as a dingy old soul. And his stuff is really moody, atmospheric, heartfelt, kind of electronic beats and lyrics. I guess that was, I don't know, it makes it sound a bit dark, like it's things you could still kind of have a rave to, but I don't know, I felt it was quite like atmospheric as well. And he wore this amazing headpiece for the whole show as well. It looked like it'd been, I don't know, like dredged up from the depths of the ocean. It was amazing, fantastic. I was hoping that he would leave it on for the interview, but alas, we just had plain old Mogan. But the interview was class nonetheless. After that, we had Andrew Ogun, and he's like a hip-hop rap artist, currently based in Newport, but he gets around, he gets all over the place. He said in his interview that his heart belongs in Berlin, where he spent a year, and you kind of get that jet-setting kind of feeling in his songs. To give you an idea of his kind of stuff, he mentions in the interview how he strives to keep the art at the centre of his lyrics and his rhymes. He doesn't want to get carried away with the glitz and the glamour of any sort of industry that he might be in. So that kind of gives you an idea of what to expect. Oh, he was also one of the organisers of the Black Lives Matter Gwent, the march that took place in Newport. which we didn't get to touch on, unfortunately. But I only had 15-20 minutes with each artist, and we kind of focused on music. But it's certainly something for you to check out outside of this podcast. And I'd love to have him back on at some point, talk about that a bit more in the future. And then last, but certainly not least, our headliners of the event, if you will, alt-rock stalwarts of the South Wales scene, straight out of the RCT, which is the Rhondda Cynon Taf, for anyone out there not completely au fait with the most minute details of the South Wales valleys. CHROMA definitely peaked the microphone saying that, but they deserve it. I think the majority of people listening to this will have heard them, or at least heard of them. But those guys, they take inspiration from bands like Biffy Clyro, Marmozets, but they put a bit of a unique spin on it because they're a trio, only 3 of them. Like you don't know what a trio is, I'll just explain that for you. 3 in a trio. And that 3 is comprised, in their case, of just vocals, drums and bass, which obviously leaves out one of the core foundations of traditional rock music, the guitar. No guitar, just the bass. Just a guitarist I find personally offensive, really, but I'll let it slide. I'll even take my hat off to them and say that they pull it off with absolutely flying colours. Like, it's not for a second do I listen to them or see them play and think, oh, could have done with a bit more guitar. They just nailed it. They nailed their sound. I chat to Katie, who is the lead singer of the band, and we talk about all sorts, as is the way on the pod, especially with such a varied array of guests on one episode, including...
There are, women in bands out there which are good enough, and you should give them the time of day. Bloody fuck them!
I can remember being really, massively into Placebo when I was a little kid. And one of the first CDs I bought was Nancy Boy, which I was with my dad at the time as well, and that just did not go down well.
Recently, yeah, I've been inspired in general just of all the kind of art that's come out of COVID. I think the fact that living through a pandemic and there's still people doing some great stuff, whether it be music, whether it be street art, whatever it is, and I find that very inspiring. That art is always there.
So if you haven't seen or heard of any of the bands that I've just talked about, like I said at the start, you can head on over to our Facebook page and you can still check out their sets from the Live Now festival. They're all also on Spotify or Bandcamp, or both in most of the cases, and I'll leave links to that and to their social medias in the episode description as well. So head on over to their pages and give them some love. From a La Pub perspective, as usual, I'm kind of running out of things to push. We had a new pin badge that sold out in a weekend the other day, so I would push that, but that sold out, so thank you very much for that. All your support is much appreciated. Other than that, just keep listening to the podcast, really. Yeah, keep showing us your love that way. And I haven't pushed it in a while because I don't want to be too overly money grabbing. But if you've got some spare change, don't know what to do with it, head over to ko-fi.com. It's about kofi.com, and chuck us that so it's not weighing your pockets down anymore, even though it will be given to us in digital currency and it won't help your pocket weight at all. But I don't know, it sounded good before I said it, and we will appreciate it. Thank you very much. This is the Live Now special on the pod with all of the artists that I just talked about, and I won't talk about them again. Have fun. Bye.
Hello.
Hello. How's it going?
Oh, good, man.
Yeah.
Leave you to it, man. I feel like I'm in a cool little dungeon.
The La Hub dungeon.
Drama.
I know. How was that then?
That was fun. I was actually really excited.
Yeah.
Today.
I was excited just to watch it. I was supposed to be there. I was supposed to come in and do this face to face. But
why didn't you come and see us, Ben?
Oh, because of the COVID nonsense, innit? Technically, I can do this from home, so I guess I should.
Technically, I could do that from home, but it's way more fun coming and doing it here.
You can't do a live performance from the pub from home. That's for sure. But it was great. It was properly fantastic performance. I was very impressed.
Thanks, man.
No,
Thank
it was
you.
all good.
I would
excited, but also kind of stressed because, you know, I used to have a band before COVID,
Oh, really?
and now I'm doing everything.
Well, you couldn't, like, you wouldn't have known. You couldn't tell that you're not used to being kind of on your own.
Apart from the massive mistake in the middle, which nobody noticed. It's fine. Not Fitzy there as backup. I was like, if it goes wrong, just make more like bleepy noises and it'll be fine.
Just unplug and plug some stuff back in. It'll be fine, yeah.
Yeah.
I
There's
think
the
it was,
one song that's just my nemesis. It always goes wrong, but in
Which
a
one
different
was
way
that?
every time. So it was the one I put it smack bang in the middle because I knew it was going to go wrong. It's called Dirty Words. And it just like
okay.
literally it goes wrong in a different way every time. Like just something inexplicable will happen. I'm like, oh well, that's interesting. That's a new way for it.
Unique mistakes.
Yeah.
I think it was overshadowed by the Wham cover, to be honest. That would just kind of plaster over everything.
They dressed as like a snowball, especially as well. It's dangerous. They did just like eat some chocolate immediately after we finished and nearly got it straight on the white outfit as well.
It's always the way. White outfits, just magnets.
Well, you've got a white t-shirt on. You must be like a seasoned pro at wearing white
I've
clothes.
been covering up with a hoodie all day. It was too hot. I couldn't take it off, so I have to. Yeah, overheating. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your songwriting process anyway. I'm going to kind of ask all the artists from Live Now kind of the same questions and just see where we go. So like the aim of these interviews is to inspire, like to kind of take what inspires you and hopefully it inspires other people, some of the listeners. So how do you go about writing a song? Like let's take To the End, for example. What's kind of the songwriting process behind that?
That one, I think I started with that horn sound. I mean, I don't know how much you can hear these details, right, when you're listening to it as a whole. But it's like I was playing it on the keys. It's kind of like these big horn chords. There was one bit where it went quiet. You could hear it a lot more. I think I started with that because I was sort of messing around with like different sample sounds. Because basically, when I started being MADI, like MADI, a couple of years ago, that was because I'd started working in the computer, sort of songwriting immediately in the computer instead of I used to like write on guitar and stuff.
Right, yeah.
But now it's more about kind of like recording stuff instantly or like finding cool sounds and then going from there instead of a real instrument.
Oh, wow.
I do play guitar still sometimes, but
yeah. Well, it was interesting for me because I come from kind of a traditional musical background as well, playing guitar. And it must be a whole different world from like all the buttons and the keys and the computers and stuff. So do you often start a song kind of from a sound, as you said? Like you just find or make a cool sound and go from there? Or
I think there's just like lots of different ways, and I don't really know. Like after I've written a song, I find it quite hard to remember how I started it.
I know
some people like you get someone to talk about like how they did something in the 70s, like how they recorded an album. Like, how do you actually remember that? Like,
it was October in 1971. Yeah, I know. Like,
yeah, and I get like a Facebook memory of 3 years ago, and I'm like, no, I wasn't doing that 3 years ago. It's a lie.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. Like, if that's the way you write, that's the way you write. It just comes to you, and then on to the next.
Yeah, sometimes start with words, sometimes start with a sound, sometimes a bit of a tune. I think the reason I like writing and sort of recording bits as I'm going and doing sort of more samply and, like software-based stuff is because when I was playing on guitar, I was getting kind of stuck in like the chords because I knew what the chords were. Do you know what I mean? And then you had to like, you knew, even if you tried to trick yourself out of it, you kind of knew what other chords went with it. And you just kind of be stuck in that pattern of thinking. Whereas I found with this, if I've just a weird little gangster synth sound, I'm just like really like just like play something weird and then like layer something with it.
Yeah.
And then there will be chords obviously in the end, but you don't really think about what they are. You just play what sounds good.
Yeah, that's great. Do you kind of find that important to like how would you say it, like test yourself almost, to push yourself in terms of songwriting?
Yeah, I'm really interested in like songwriting as a thing. Like one of my favorite podcasts is called Song Exploder.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
I've seen there's like a TV version on Netflix now as well.
I've seen like the trailer. I haven't watched an episode yet. Does it translate well or yeah?
Yeah, it's like my favorite thing.
Awesome.
They've got Trent Reznor on there.
Oh wow, which song? Do they still do like one song per episode on the Netflix? Yeah. Oh, so they did Hurt.
Yeah, I love it. That's another one. People are just talking about like how they wrote something and how they produced it like all that time ago. I'm like, how do you remember?
Yeah.
But it is amazing. I love watching that. So yeah, I'm into like songwriting as a kind of craft, as a cool thing.
Yeah, an
Because it's
art
easy
in
to just sort of
itself.
sit there and be kind of like, right, I'm just going to be like struck by the muse and it's going to be great. But then you just don't end up writing very much if you just sit around and wait for that to happen, do you?
For sure. Yeah, I find it a slog sometimes. Literally, it's
Mm.
exhausting almost at times, and then other times it just comes, I guess. It's part of the
I want
beauty
to
of
be
it.
the kind of person who like writes music every day without like even thinking about it.
Yeah,
And I do it quite a lot. I sort of make myself get into it. Like I've been
yeah,
writing some like like TV music.
right. Just like
It's called
ambient music or
music,
whatever.
dramatic, cinematic kind of music for this
Yeah,
thing. And that's like a whole different thing. Like having to write something that's instrumental and also this like not too kind of attention grabbing
right.
because it's meant underneath something. So that's like a whole
Yeah.
new different thing. And then like sometimes have to like I've written music for theatre as well. And then that had to be like in a really particular vibe. So yeah. But I think for me it's just trying to trick myself out of overthinking it.
Yeah.
Because I like studied classical music and there's nothing
Oh, so you
worse for
come from that background, I see.
yeah. I think there's nothing worse for like just freely writing music than having studied it too much.
Right.
Because then you just kind of like you just got all of the things there in your head. You're like, how do
Mhm.
I choose? You know, like when you go, like I'm talking about Netflix again. When you go on there, and you just
Yeah.
cannot choose what to watch because there's just everything. And then
Yep.
someone goes like, oh, let's look on Amazon Prime. Oh, let's look on this as well. I'm just like,
Great.
no,
Let's just give
there's
us
too
more
many things.
choice. Yeah.
So many things to choose from. I think music is kind of like that. I like picking up something because basically with all this like electronic stuff, I did not know what I was doing. I
Yeah.
still don't, but I started trying to work out how to do it like 2-3 years ago.
Okay.
But then this sort of performing live like this, I've only done this year since COVID.
No way. So
Mm.
what, like you said, you used to do band stuff. Like, was that
Mhm.
under a different name and a completely different sound, or what?
Yes. So when
Yeah.
I used to just go as Maddie Jones, and Maddie was spelled differently. It's really confusing. But I started off as like more acoustic, just because that's easier.
Okay.
And then it ended up becoming a bigger and bigger band. And then it eventually got a bit heavier and started playing electric guitars and stuff. And then there was like the last EP I released like that had one that I'd sort of worked on in Ableton, like when I was ill in bed. So it
Right.
started getting all stuffy and stuff. And then I got to a point where I was kind of fed up of what I was doing. I wanted to explore that kind of more electronic vibe because I wouldn't call myself as like an electronic artist, but I obviously am. But
Yeah. Well, you definitely are now. Yeah.
I still
That-
think I'm like a rock band in my head.
Yeah.
That's how I think of it.
Oh, that's cool.
I've just got loads of buttons instead.
So
Many buttons.
I was going to kind of ask what first inspired you to get into music, but I feel like we've touched on that a little bit, like at least inspired this kind of iteration of MADI, I guess. So I'll skip to like
This
what
sort of
inspired.
iteration is more like from artists like St. Vincent,
Yeah.
Kimbra, Christine
Mhm.
the Queens. I love all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I was kind of like, I felt like I was just kind of like rehashing old vibes. I wasn't doing anything particularly new and interested in a guitar band. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. Hmm.
I want to find the new sound, like in the Mighty Bush.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think like this new sound would have happened if it wasn't for kind of your musical journey so far, your classical background and your bands before
I
this?
don't think it would. I think it
No.
has to be a culmination of everything I've done. Like I've played like for loads of years of my life. I played a clarinet in an orchestra, and like
Oh,
how is that
wow.
relevant to what I'm doing now? But it definitely
Yeah.
is. It's definitely. I mean, there's clarinet into the end
Right.
at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
so I'm like, it is relevant.
Yeah,
Everything's there. I think it's just like a great big mash of all the things that I've ever done
yeah.
in one thing. Because yeah, I was thinking earlier. I listened to Ella Fitzgerald,
Yeah, yeah.
the jazz singer, and there was this one album my parents had, and when I was 12, that's what made me want to be a singer, singing along to that.
Oh,
And I put it on the other day because I was feeling a bit kind of like, oh, COVID's rubbish. Oh, being in my house is rubbish. And I just put it on and sang along. And you know, like every single word,
yeah, yeah.
every little bit of melody, every little solo, everything, everything inside out. Because that was
Mhm.
like, I used to sing along to it and be like, maybe I'll be a singer one day.
One day.
To listen to Ella Fitzgerald for no apparent reason. But yeah.
Awesome. That's sick.
So yeah, my brain is basically just like a big old big old rubbish bag full of stuff that I've
Some
done. I think.
musical soup kind of in there, yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
so.
what inspires you right now? Like what, I don't know if you can remember the last thing that inspired you to write a song, or is there something that you go back to for inspiration, or how does it work for you?
When I'm writing songs for myself, as opposed to for, like a
For other
production
stuff.
or like a reading,
Yeah.
it has to, I think, be something that I actually feel myself. I mean, it sounds like this, what everyone would say about writing a song, but like I would never be able to write, when people write songs that are like stories of imaginary people's lives, or like
Yeah.
it's about
Eleanor
someone
Rigby
else.
or whatever.
I don't have the capacity in my brain to do that. I'm just like, I feel this, therefore I will write about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like, and I think often if someone says something weird, like if somebody like says something slightly wrong, like they say a phrase slightly wrong,
Yeah.
and then she's like, oh, that's so poetic because it's wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like little things like that, or like little feelings, and
But
yeah.
it's a
I
very...
had a really weird dream the other day that I think I might try and make into a song.
Oh,
I
yeah?
won't go into it. My dreams are literally like Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones and like Star Wars all matched together. Yeah, there's like 1,000 characters. There's all like blah blah, son of blah blah, and they all speak weird languages. And
Really? They're regularly kind of medieval?
oh, they're just everything. They're everything at once. Like I woke up the other day and it had been this like really dramatic dream, and it had this recurring kind of like this thing, like this place that I've definitely been to in a dream before. And by the end, I was a wolf, but I was in the sky. And then I saved everyone from something in this big house. And then everything suddenly got really, really colourful. And it was so beautiful that everyone started crying.
Wow.
I just woke up and I was like, that was weird. Thank you, though.
That sounds like it deserves to be written into a novel rather than a song.
But when I feel like when I wake up, that's what I feel is like a book has happened in my head.
Yeah.
I don't,
No.
when people are like, they dream about being late for work or like accidentally being naked in the supermarket. Or
Yeah,
whatever. I'm like,
yeah.
no, I'm a flying wolf.
Oh, that's amateur dreams in comparison.
I do like fantasy and sci-fi quite a lot though, so I'm probably just feeding it a little bit.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong at all.
Nothing wrong with that.
So, coming full circle in the inspiration circle, what would you say to inspire someone else to start creating music? Is there anything that you would kind of, I don't know, advice to give or an experience to share, or just something that you think would inspire others to kind of join this journey?
Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, go for it. Say whatever you want.
Okay, just make loads of shit. It doesn't matter whether it's good or not. Just make loads of shit, and you'll have loads of fun doing it. And then usually when you make it, like even if you like deliberately try to be shit on purpose, it usually ends up you like it in the end anyway.
Yeah, you'll find something in
People
there.
just going to get stuck like never starting or never finishing, or because they're just like, oh, that's not good enough. Whereas like especially more recently, I've just been kind of like, no, well, like I'm going to start making YouTube videos now. Fine, they're not going to be great at first, but I'm just going to fucking make them anyway, and I'm going to put them out. And then they're going to get better as I go along. And it's the same like that with music. Like I'm not the greatest at what I'm doing with that live setup yet, but I'm better than I was like a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And then I'm better than I was like years ago. And I was thinking earlier, like 3 years ago, I wasn't doing any of that. Even 1 year ago, I wasn't doing any of that.
Yeah.
So you just have to, it's hard to see your own progress.
For sure. Yeah, it definitely is. I think that's great advice. Perfect advice. Yeah.
Make loads of shit and then look back. And when you look back a couple of months, you'd be kind of like, oh my God, I'm so proud of me. I've come so far.
Yeah. And then in another 3 months, you'll be looking back and it's still shite. Yeah.
Yeah, like literally, if I look back now to like some of the first stuff, like I basically started doing all like electronic stuff maybe like 2017. I think it was like August 2017 I started doing it.
Yeah.
Back at, I don't think I even got them on my computer, but those files, I don't think they'll ever see the light of day.
And I bet you were so proud of them at the time.
I did like a recorded of me, like when I wrote a song and recorded it on my dad's like tape player.
Yeah.
When I was like 14. And then you just kind of like, oh, but that's kind of cute when you were little,
Yeah.
You just have to kind of like enjoy it and just like look back and be kind of like, oh yeah, well look how far I've come, even if you do think it's shit.
Yep, agree completely. I read something the other day, this just phrase, I can't even remember where I read it, but it was the the term analysis paralysis, like where
Yeah.
people they just overthink everything, and it stops them from actually doing anything. You're like, oh, I can't write a song until I'm this good at the guitar, or I have this microphone or whatever. But no, yeah, I agree with you. Just jump in and do it, and you'll get better.
And I don't know if I'm paraphrasing, but there's also perfect is the enemy of good. I like that one.
Yeah.
It's perfect just doesn't exist. All it does is just stop you doing anything.
Yeah,
Because it's really perfect, is it? Literally never.
yeah, an endless wild goose chase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I used to have it as a quote on my desktop. I love quotes, man. Can you tell?
Yeah.
I used to have it on my desktop, and I think it's this dance woman. I feel like she was called Martha something. I can't remember her name, but she basically was saying about you're just like the channel. It's not your job to decide whether it's good or bad. You're just the channel. Just let it flow through you.
Let it flow. I like that a lot.
Let it flow.
I think we'll end it there.
I am dressed as like a snowman today, so
true. Yeah, apt.
Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for performing for us and for giving us a few extra minutes for the podcast as well.
I really loved it. It was
awesome.
fun.
I hope we'll see you soon in the pub properly with an audience and a crowd and stuff soon.
Coming in here, I'm just kind of like, I wish I could just actually be in here. This would be really fun.
Is it the first time coming in?
I went to when it was in an old different building before.
Yeah. We transformed the place, but not that much. Yeah, we had to.
Kind of like, I'm sure it didn't look like this before. When was that it was in the old place?
We've been in the new place. Oh, I lose track. Years now, though. Maybe 3 years.
Well, yeah, because when I played in the old one, I was playing a guitar. So
yeah, it's a little while ago. That's cool. New Le Pub, new MADI.
Yeah,
there's poetry in that.
Moving on together.
Awesome. Nice. Well, thanks again, and we'll speak to you soon.
Cool. Do I just leave the dungeon now?
Yeah, I'll end the recording, and you go do whatever you want. Nice one. Nice to meet you. Speak to you soon.
Nice to speak to you.
Bye.
Bye.
That was MADI moving swiftly on to Callum from Toodles in Hectic Pity. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey man, can you hear me?
Yeah, all good, yeah.
Sweet. How are you? How did that feel? Was it good to be back on stage or what?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Dom, our drummer, was just saying, it was just like, oh, it was nice to get some like applause after we play rather than like dead silence like we usually get for the last year or so.
Yeah. Have you done a few of the kind of stream gigs then over the time?
Yeah, we've done a couple. So we've done a few pre-recorded ones, and then I've done a few live streams just by myself. But I don't think that we've done any live ones with all three of us. So
no.
Yeah.
So it felt
good.
That
was really nice.
Do you do a lot of solo stuff then as well, or is it mainly in Toodles?
No, not really. I kind of like at the end of last year, I did do the occasional solo thing just when like someone wasn't one of our band members wasn't available or something like that. And then the end of last year, I was like, you know what? I don't enjoy it that much. Like it's much more fun to play with a band. Yeah. And then obviously then it was just like, well, I can't, like when live streams were going on in the first lockdown, especially, it was just like, well, there's no way I can see the band members. We did do a few actually. I remember where we got Dom and Max to record their parts and video themselves at home, and then I kind of like had them up on a screen behind me and blasted it through and then streamed that way, which was very difficult, but it was like good fun.
I bet. That's cool though, man. Yeah, the ingenuity that lockdown brings out of people is just something to behold. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But that was a sick show though, man. It was really good. Like you guys sound great. And your voice slaps, like it shreds. Like it sounds almost painful. Like I always think that about like metal singers. Like how do they do that night after night? It's just, great voice.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really should like start learning to warm up because it's just like and also we made a few decisions where we were like playing songs and I was like, this is only just in my range. So should we either move it down a notch or should we just like go for it? And each time we just be like, it just sounds more exciting if we just go for it and
for sure.
Just hit the note.
Even if you just miss it, like I think the crowd appreciates the effort. You went for it, like points for effort. So I was speaking to Maddie just now after her set, and I'm kind of asking everyone, if not the same, then very similar questions with kind of the intent to inspire anyone that might be either watching the festival sets or listening to this podcast. Just inspire people to get kind of into music a bit more. So firstly, in terms of like songwriting, how do you guys go about it? So like if we take what was the one you opened? Ducks, for example. Like, how did that come to be?
So for that one, it was actually like, so generally I start writing the songs myself and I kind of get an idea of what I think the song structure should be. Because I think it's very easy to kind of like come to a band with a riff and be like, let's go with this. But then it can be a little bit like, you know, Guns N' Roses in Sweet Child of Mine when they end up doing the bridge, which is literally where do we go now? And I'm just like, you guys, lazy bastards. But like, it's really easy to do that. So I do tend to be like, okay, this is the start point and the end point, and bring that to the band and be like, this is where it's going to go. And that will usually change because they're both really great songwriters as well.
Right.
But yeah, I usually start with something. And then with Ducks, it was actually like, I started it as a really slow, sad kind of dirge of a song. And then when we brought it to the band, we just like, every time we played it, we were like, actually, this could just go a little bit faster. It would sound a little bit more exciting. And it ended up being like not even slightly the song that it started with.
No, it's a really fast one now.
Yeah. So that was that one. But usually like Dom in particular, he's like plays multiple instruments, so he's always got quite a strong ear for making things work. So it's definitely a group effort. Yeah,
a very collaborative process. Does it ever get kind of not like hard or difficult, but you say like all three of you are songwriters. Does it ever kind of, I don't know, do you ever like butt heads or anything, or do you work well together as a team?
Yeah, I think we go really far back, the three of us. Like we've known each other since a very long time. So we're great friends, but we do definitely like we've all got fairly strong opinions as well. So we definitely butt heads, and it will sometimes be like, you know, this sounds shit kind of thing. But I think it is all with the intent of like, we don't want to half-ass anything, and we definitely don't want to put out something that we're not totally on board with. And so I think that our songwriting process takes quite a while because we're usually like, and also with the three of us being, songwriters and stuff, we often have the point where we're like, this is all well and good, but I'm bored playing it. So we need to change something just to make ourselves like happy with what we're doing, because if we're not all happy, then that's the you kind of lose the point of doing stuff. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's funny, like like you mentioned boredom, then like bored playing it, like your songs kind of change course quite often. Like obviously you kind of meld in different genres as well. Is that kind of intentional as well? Is it to take away the boredom of playing a song? Yeah, kind of. I do think like my least favorite thing when I hear a song is it being like one, like it feels one note the whole way through. Like there's no like we try and do really harsh dynamic changes, or we try and do really harsh speed changes and things like that. That's always been kind of like in a kind of like, quite often we'll suggest something and the other two members will be like, you've got to be kidding, because that sounds really stupid. But we're like, let's just give it a go, see how it sounds. Yeah. So we do that quite a lot. I think we've gone less for that recently with new songs, less like really strange like speed changes, but have tried to do bigger dynamic changes and bigger melding of genres. And I think we've gone in a slightly more like emo direction with more recent songs. So I think maybe at the beginning we were writing stuff and it was kind of like, let's just make these as fast as possible and just like really like blast people with them. And now I think we're just a little bit more confident, and we're like, no, we can write something that is like, that takes a long time and always like 6 or 7 minutes and is really slow, and we're like happy to do that now. Yeah. Was with the last song that you played in your set then, was that a more modern song that kind of that started off kind of slow? That was like that was the last song of our most recent EP, and that was one where it was like, before we were writing like 3-minute songs and stuff like that, and that one ended up it ended up being 7 minutes, but like when we were getting to like the 5-minute mark, we're just like, are people going to be bored during this? And it's just like, I'm not sure I care anymore. Like, like we haven't finished writing it yet, so there's no point in cutting it short.
Yeah, if it's
And
not done, it's not done.
exactly, and like hopefully, I think that one, it starts really slow, and then there's just this constant build towards what I hopefully think is a satisfying end. So as long as it ends up being satisfying for the person who's listening, then hopefully the whole process of the song is worth it.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely builds. Yeah, it's great. I really like that one.
Thanks.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about your guys' inspirations as well.
Mhm.
So what you say you go back a long time, the three of you. What inspired you first to kind of start writing music together? What first brought you into the world of music?
So we went to the same secondary school, and we all did music GCSE, and then me and Dom did music A level together. So we were kind of like playing together the odd thing, like doing covers or I weirdly enough I played bass in like the Oliver production that our school did, despite the fact that I don't play bass in the slightest. Mostly because I was the only person in the music A level thing, but the teacher was like, you don't have a very obvious instrument that you could. He wanted to ask me because he'd asked everyone else, and he was just like, oh, you could play bass instead of what
Here's
is
a
actually supposed to be,
bass.
which is like cello or something. So like me and Dom were playing together on that, and then eventually our friend Will Robson, he puts together a festival called Inglefest, and when that was like in its early stages 5 or 6 years ago, he asked us if we wanted to play, being like the three musical friends that he knew. He was like, you could form a band and like play some covers and stuff, and we're like, yeah, why not, which we did. And yeah, I don't know, we just like never stopped after that. After that we were just like, well, we'll play next year, and next year we'll play originals. And so we spent the whole year writing songs, and then just to play that particular time, and then it kind of took off from there.
Nice. What the covers that you guys played, were they even remotely similar to the stuff you do now, or were they just kind of standard rock songs?
Not even slightly. It was just like, because the kind of first iteration of that festival was basically a garden party. We were just like, let's just play some bangers. Like we played Teenage Dirtbag, and we played like just some real like party songs kind of thing. And it just like felt right. And then Dom was really keen that we start doing originals together, which wasn't really, I don't think any of us had really been in a proper band before or done original stuff like in a public setting.
No.
So that was quite nerve-wracking, but it just kind of like felt right, so we just kept doing it.
Yeah, that's cool. And had you had much kind of singing in your background, or did you just kind of take to it when you guys started playing together?
Like I sang at home to myself, and like played acoustic guitar to myself, and like covered songs just in my own time. When I was 13, I was in like a very, very casual band where I sang for that, but no, not in like a serious way.
Yeah,
like for that.
So all three of you kind of found your musical legs in this group, this project.
Yeah, kind of. And it was just as Dom, our drummer, was going to BIM, which is the Bristol Institute of Modern Music. So he was going to that to like go into music in, hopefully a professional, serious way. And he's a professional musician now, like doing function bands and weddings and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that was all of our first really original bands.
Sick. Yeah, it's really great. So going from that, what inspires you now? Like what inspires you to write? What maybe was the last thing that inspired you to write a song, or just what is your inspiration at the moment?
That's a very good question. It's usually like you listen, like I listen to a record and I listen to a song on it. There'll like occasionally be like a song on there and you're just like, oh man, I really wish I'd written something that was that good.
Feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I kind of like, I'm not going to say that I like try and actively rip people off or anything like that, but like, when you hear something that's really, really good in a certain way and you try and just like get that energy, the same
just
energy,
the feel.
and it's just like, how did they get away with something? A lot of the time is when I hear something that like it sounds really, really simple, and you're just like, how did they make something that sounds that simple end up that good?
Yeah,
because we're like a three-piece. It's always been the case of being like, how can we make what we're doing sound really great without adding lots of extras? Like when we recorded, we didn't just like throw loads of stuff in just because we were recording. We were like, we may as well like try our best to make the 3 instruments that we're playing as good as possible, because that's what we're going to be playing live.
Yeah.
So that's often, what, like, just like, hearing a particular songwriter or a particular band and just being like, oh, I didn't realize that you could do it like that, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I felt that a lot about, I don't know if you listened to the last Idols album that much.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I felt that so much. Like, I'm a guitarist, and some of their stuff is just so simple, but in like the best way possible. Just like, how can you make something so simple sound so cool?
Yeah. And I think when it comes that, like with bands like Idols, it comes down to like delivery and dynamics and all that kind of stuff. It's not rocket science, but it is something that you have to like actually do work hard on, because a lot of the time it's like, if you're really enjoying yourself, especially, you're just going to play a lot better and it's going to feel a lot better for people who are listening. So it's like, it's also being confident in what you're doing as well as just the actual songwriting.
For sure, yeah. And I feel like some songs kind of translate better in a live environment as well. Like some, they just kind of take on a new kind of lease of life when they played live. Which kind of sucks at the moment, I guess, with the complete and utter lack of live shows. But oh well, there we are.
Yeah, I kind of feel sorry for like, there are lots of bands out there who like are really coming to their own as live bands, and I know a lot of bands who I wouldn't necessarily listen to on record, but I would always go and see if they were in town.
Yeah.
Like such an experience, or they're such a good band to just watch.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like really bad for those bands at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel bad for all bands at the moment, but like that is particularly bad if that
sure.
is where you get your kicks.
Yeah. I know. I felt sorry for you guys when you said you had that. Was it a new EP that you released and then you played like one show promoting it?
Yeah. I mean, like, feels bad, but like, I mean, we got like the launch show that we played was awesome. Like, it was really, really good fun. We did it in St. Paul's Church crypt in Bristol, so it's like not a actual music venue. It's just like a crypt, and we rented that out and we did all the stuff ourselves, and it was like really, really good fun. So it's like, I'm glad that we did that, because Charmpit, who are a band who are on the same label, Special Subject, like their EP came out, their record came out even in like just like the first 2 weeks of lockdown, and they just never had been able to play any shows,
That's the worst.
And it's like that kind of, that's even worse than like if your record comes out now and it's like, okay, well, you can't do gigs, because like at least you knew that when you were like putting it together. But like they were like building up for a tour and all the stuff, and then it's like, oh no, like 2 weeks in and it comes out.
Yeah, it's the worst. And it's like the constant kind of delay as well. Like it would be one thing if it was just cancelled once and then, okay, cool, we'll do it at this later date. But it's just, oh no, we'll do it now. Oh no, it'll be in November. It'll be whenever. It's just, it's hard to keep up with it.
Yeah, definitely. And we've had a little bit of that. We didn't rebook our tour. We had a tour booked for March, and we made the decision not to rebook that, because there were people saying, well, you could rebook it for September. That seemed like a good time. And I was just like, let's just not. Just for the sake of it. Like we could book it if it looked like it's going to be better, we'll book it. But we had a little bit of that with the recording, because we've been kind of like sitting on some new songs, and it's been a bit like, okay, well, I mean, like I've been sitting on some songs, and it's kind of like, well, we need to go into practice to learn these songs, to get them ready, to then record. And it's just always been a case of like, well, when are we going to be able to do any of those things?
Yeah.
We've practiced like maybe like a handful of times the whole year, and you can't really write songs under those conditions.
You can't at all. It's just outrageous. Yeah. What a year. And I'm just, I'm tired of talking about it, but like there's just so much to talk about at the same time. You know what I mean? Like it's just all consuming, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's rubbish. And I try not to be too neggy about it as well, because it's like, I mean, people have had it worse, I guess. I mean, that's not to put down like like a lot of people have been through a lot of shit this year. I guess for us, I'm not too neggy about it, because we got to put out a record and it has actually done better than we expected anyway. So we're kind of like, it's not the end of the world for us, but
no.
And also we're in the position where at least I don't rely on music to make a living.
Right.
Dom actually does rely on music to make a living, so that's a whole different conversation. But it's like
Yeah.
at least like Toodles isn't a band which is like given up everything to like be a full-time rock band and be like, oh yeah, that's our
Yeah.
main source of income, because then we'd be totally fucked.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. I appreciate you and other people giving me perspective at times. Like, it is just I don't know, an easy thing to do to just slide into the COVID pit of despair. Yeah, you're right. People do have it worse. But anyway, off COVID. So back to inspiration. How would you go about inspiring other people to kind of get into music and to songwriting?
I think I like to like point out like how many musicians are out there who are not technically proficient. You know, they're not like the top grade guitar players, and they're not the top grade bass players, and they're not fantastic singers. Like, I don't like. It's very nice of you to say that I'm a good singer. Like, I don't think that I'm a very like polished singer. And no one seems to care, which is great.
No.
But there's plenty of people who would be like, they would have second thoughts about getting into music because they'd say like, well, I'm not very good, or like, I'm not as good as so and so. But it's like, some of the greatest musicians were not like the most polished guitar players or whatever.
No, at
so
all.
there's definitely that. Yeah, exactly. And also like it's also worth thinking about, like, you know, the kind of confidence thing. Like, it's easier for me, Max, and Dom as white guys in Britain to be like, oh yeah, we can probably do this kind of thing. And it's kind of like, and because we have that extra confidence, it's kind of like, well, in the end, we do it. And there's like, for women and non-binary folks in Bristol, there's Eat Up, which do like workshops and stuff for different instruments, and then they'll do showcases. They're not obviously doing them at the moment, but like in the future they have a lot of resources. They've got gear, and they've got guitars, and they've got basses, and they'll do like showcases every couple of months of all the bands that have like become bands because of Eat Up. And I just think that that's like, all you need is like very mild skill at an instrument and some mates to play with, and that's all you need.
Yeah,
you know,
literally, yeah, and just a bit of enthusiasm, the willingness to get involved. Yeah,
and also like, you know, like what we've always like, we don't take ourselves super seriously, and I think that's the best way to do it, because otherwise you just like, you come out of every gig being like, oh well, there wasn't that many people there, or like maybe that people didn't like it very much. It's like, I don't know, to us it doesn't matter that much as long as we're having a good time, and that's it's easy to get worked up and anxious about, you know, something that you're putting yourself out there for, and something that you put a lot of effort into. But like, at the end of the day, as long as you're having a good time, that's the reason to do it.
For sure, yeah. And I think it's important to kind of realize and remember that we live in a world where kind of it's everyone knows each other so much that there will always be someone out there that likes your stuff. You know what I mean? Like, especially because of the internet, like it's just almost impossible for no one to like your stuff. You know what I mean? You just have to get it out there, and you'll find your audience, and someone will like what you're doing.
Yeah, totally. And it's like, you know, someone leaves one comment saying a really nice thing, and it's like, that's all it takes to like give you that good feeling and be like, oh yeah, this is worthwhile doing.
Yeah, literally, definitely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I've seen shows at the pub several times where there's literally just one person there, and it's worth it for that artist. Like, it's worth it to have just kind of, I don't know, as cliche as it sounds, to have touched that one person in whatever way that might be.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, as long as they've had a good time, like, yeah, there we go.
Then happy days. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so just do it and have a good time, and that's the most important bit. I guess that's the summary of the inspiration.
Yeah, totally. And I just like, you know, I'm a fairly worrisome person, so it's like, it's easy to be like, just don't worry about it too much. Like, obviously people do worry about it, but it's like, yeah, at the end of the day, you know, you may as well give it a shot, because like, being in a band is so much fun.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
It's worth doing. Just like, you don't have to be like, oh, let's sell loads of records and play loads of shows. You can like play a handful of shows or not play any shows at all. That there's lots of different ways to be involved in the arts, and it's super gratifying, especially if you're doing it in the context of a band, because it's just like a really nice thing to do with other people.
Yeah, could not agree more. Nice one, man. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for performing, you and all the guys in Toodles, yeah. And hopefully we'll see you again soon with a full crowd, or just one person in the audience, like we were just saying.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm happy with that. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was really fun.
No
Hopefully
worries,
we'll
man.
be back when it's like properly open.
Sick. Nice one, man. Thank you very much. I will speak to you soon.
Cool. Take it easy.
See you, man. Bye. Thank you to Callum and all the boys from Toodles. Up next, we have Mogan. You all right?
Hello, yeah, I'm good.
Good. Weird. I
no,
thought there was going to be
no.
impersonal through Zoom as it is, but now I can't even see you and you can't even see me. So, oh well, we'll just go on.
I think I can see the tiniest picture of you in the right-hand corner, and that is it. But otherwise, I'm speaking to a nondescript sort of avatar.
I promise I'm slightly more animated than that picture might be in real life.
Only slightly.
How was the show, man? Like, it was great over the stream. Like, it was really kind of atmospheric and cool. Like, how was it for you?
It was. I mean, I love playing in the pub anyway. I like my last gig was actually at the pub in February, so it felt
Awesome.
it was weird. It felt like a strange kind of coming home sort of gig, but obviously like less people, which like I'm not gonna lie, like you can really feel when there's not an audience there.
I was thinking that the whole time, like your kind of music just like begs like as big an audience as possible, just losing their minds kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's quite. One thing that was quite funny actually was that my mic cable got sort of caught under the foot of the table, so I couldn't sort of move around as much as I normally would. So it was almost like a kind of. It was almost like like this isn't a proper live performance. This is like just stay and I can see you. Like, but yeah, it was good to actually. I mean, I've been working on some of these songs for like the last sort of 10 months. So it was nice to kind of breathe a bit of light into them, and I've just sort of had a quick look on Facebook, and there's been really nice feedback as well. So that's always good.
Awesome.
So
that's good to hear.
Yeah.
So crazy how long all this has been going on, isn't it? Like you said that you've been working on these songs for like 9-10 months. That sounds like such a long time, but still that was all pretty much just lockdown. Like these are all lockdown songs kind of thing. It's mental.
Yeah. I mean, there were certain ones that I'd like started before lockdown as well, but then I think it's really difficult to not have the kind of lockdown mentality filter through that again, because I generally like I sort of compose my songs alone, and then I usually work with a producer as well, to guy called Minas, who seems to be everywhere in Cardiff. He's a bit of an angel boy. But in terms of like my sort of composition, it's like it's me sort of on my own, sort of fixating over sort of one ridiculous sort of noise or atmospheric that will just be on loop for hours and hours and hours. So then when you're sort of offered all of this time during lockdown to then sort of go back and analyze what you've already done, it was kind of good, I think. Like it's sort of I think there's such a thing as being given too much time, and it's not always a gift. Like,
oh, for sure. Yeah. I wasn't sure that was possible before lockdown, but now I'm definitely kind of cemented in that idea. Yeah, there is such a thing as too much spare time. Yeah.
Well, because I kind of had to really restrict myself as well. So like I tried to, because obviously you don't want to just sort of spend the whole lockdown as well sort of working on songs that you've already written. So when I was writing new songs, I was saying like, right, let's just I watched this documentary about like hardcore punk over in America, and they were saying how like they would write a song in literally like an hour or even less than that sometimes. And I was like, right, okay, maybe I can try and do the same sort of mentality for like what I do. And so I was trying to give myself a time limit of 2 days to just finish or just get it to sort of some form of completion. And it did kind of work actually, because it was a different way of working for me, and it kind of meant that I wasn't just like staying up till all hours, fixating, like I said, just on one synth noise. So yeah,
One
it was
sound,
quite good to throw some rules in there.
That's
I
cool.
guess.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you a bit about your writing process. So it sounds like it's quite a drawn out process a lot of the time. It takes a long time for you.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, sometimes it can all just fall into place quite nicely, but I think a lot of the time, sort of in terms of my writing, I think it can be quite what's the word? I kind of like to, particularly with lyrics, I'll sort of have a rant and just sort of get it all out on paper, and then I might sort of leave it for a couple of days or weeks, or sort of years even sometimes. I've found old bits that I've written before, sort of years ago, that then once you've kind of had that opportunity to kind of digest, you can then sort of go in and edit and make things sort of into a song basically. I think I quite like work, because when I sort of do music composition as well, it can be a lot of sort of layering and just layering different noises on top of one another and looping and just sort of you end up left with this kind of almighty kind of noise basically, and then I'll start to kind of peel that back. So it can be quite sort of intense, sort of in that sort of build up, and then I'll start to sort of chip away at it. It's kind of like an argument, like a musical argument, like shout at everything and then sort of start to kind of process and come to some kind of
find the nuance in that afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a lot of like reflection on sort of like a moment, if that doesn't sound too cheesy.
No, that makes sense. Especially in your kind of atmospheric music.
And I think as well, I think particularly because it is, I know there's a lot of solo artists, but I think when it is just you, it can be, you can sort of get lost on a sort of path of just creating these kind of endless kind of noises, and I think that sometimes it's quite nice to actually just think, right, I'm going to put this to bed now for a while, and then come back to it sort of a few days or a couple of weeks or months later. It's always quite a long sort of process, but I think, I don't know, I'm quite a perfectionist as well, so that doesn't help as well in terms of the like time it takes to get things done.
Perfectionism usually takes time, from what I've seen.
Because I think you sort of become your own worst enemy as well, and I think there are times, particularly when you're on your own, I think you start to second guess, which is why I've sort of worked with Minas before as well, because it was quite nice to just have that other person there to say, like, no, shut up, that sounds great. Like, I think
just leave
you
it.
can sort of get into your own, well, I know that I can definitely get into my own head about whether something sounds good or not.
I guess that's the pros and cons, like you say. Like, there are definitely positives of that kind of perfectionism. That's where your music comes from. I guess it's just kind of reeling it in, restraining it, and not letting it get detrimental.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a very fine line as well, I think, with that.
Oh, I'm sure. So I've kind of been asking all of the artists from Live Now Festival 3 questions about inspiration. So, like, I want to start by asking, what was your first inspiration to get into music? What started you off kind of creating music?
Oh, wow.
If you can remember.
It was definitely from a very early age. I can kind of remember writing songs when I was probably about 8 or 9, and I was like, I guess I was quite I was into quite sort of varied different music, and I can remember being really like massively into Placebo when I was a little kid.
Oh yeah.
And like one of the first CDs I bought was Nancy Boy, which I was with my dad at the time as well, and that just like did not go down well. but I was also into I was also into like a lot of R&B as well, and I absolutely like idolized
Okay.
like, TLC, and just like, I don't know, like I can remember sort of writing these sort of like probably very, very crap like 8-9-year-old sort of R&B style songs that were influenced.
Wow.
But then I guess like I'd always enjoyed singing, and I'd never quite like I sort of learned the guitar and I learned drums and I did sort of piano lessons, but like never to a point of sort of being like a qualified, like classically trained. Like I'm not classically trained at all, and I know that I'm, you know, I play the keyboard, but like it's basic, you know. I like making sort of noise and soundscapes. But I think you know, I'd sort of been in bands when I was growing up, but I was always kind of just the lead singer and songwriter. And then I guess when I left a band that I was in Bristol, and this is when I moved over to Cardiff, and I just kind of I really don't know what the sort of catalyst was, but I bought myself a little loop pedal and just started layering up vocals and like very early Mogan stuff is like really fucking weird. Like it was just like I bought like it's the same effects pedal that I've got now, but I was just using like a lot of like feedback loops and just create like really sort of sparse kind of it was just weird. I was just kind of experimenting, and then I think there was something that just made me think, actually, I know what it was. Yeah, I bought myself a computer so that I could actually edit these kind of weird noises together.
Right. Yeah.
But I think like musically, I was always sort of I guess like my sort of coming of age years was always like Bjork, you know, those kind of real sort of the atmospherics behind some of Bjork's instrumentation and orchestration and the use of noise and the voice as well, like, because I know that I haven't got the most sort of, you know, operatic or classically sort of trained voice, but I feel, you know, I sort of started to know how to use it in a way that worked.
Right, yeah.
And it felt spooky.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
why use it as another instrument.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I feel like I really went off on one there.
No, that's the beauty of a podcast, isn't it? You just ask a question and see where it goes. That's the point.
Cool.
Yeah, it was funny that we finally got to Bjork. Bjork was kind of the inspiration I was expecting before Placebo and TLC. But I love that we covered all the bases there.
Yeah. I just went through this phase as a kid of just loving. I really latched onto these kind of really sort of like, I love Missy Elliott as well. Like I've just, and I'm still like absolutely obsessed. And I think that as well, like that's where like a lot of my kind of like visual inspiration comes from, is just like thinking, you know, why not wear a fucking stupid outfit on stage? Like it's capturing people's attention, and it's like it's important. You know, I'd like to try and tick every sense. You know, if I could make some kind of gig taste, then I would be unleashing it on an audience.
That's something to work on for the future.
Yeah. Maybe at the next lockdown.
Yeah, you can work on that in between. Sick. So carrying on from that, what inspires you right now to make music?
In terms of like, I guess like with my own music, like it's a lot of I guess like interactions with people. I think that, and this is another thing that's quite sort of that's kind of changed, I guess, since lockdown, because obviously you're not interacting with people as much. But like I used to commute a lot for work. And a lot of the time, like, you know, you sort of keep your headphones in and you listen to whatever music you like. But a lot of the time I'd try and sort of like turn my headphones off, keep them on, but
Right.
turn them off, and just like listen to people's conversations, because you can really pick out some really just beautiful lines that are just really like natural. And that's what I really like using in my lyrics as well. It's just these sort of, like, I was working on a song a couple of months ago, and it just had this kind of line of like, have a word with yourself. Like, you know, it's something that, like, you know, I've got northern parents, you know, my family from Liverpool, and it, like, you just hear that in sort of casual conversation, and it just sort of, I think sometimes when you hear those very casual kind of just bits of conversation, like something can really resonate in a line like that.
So inspiration from
yeah,
like
I guess
the
with,
kind of mundane everyday aspects of life rather than the huge kind of dramatic events of life.
Absolutely, because like mundane conversation, you can take elements of that and you can apply it to something bigger, and it just gives it such a real like, it just emphasizes, I guess, that emotion a little bit more than how it would be said in, like, obviously mundane conversation. But I guess, like, with lockdown, like, obviously it's difficult to not be influenced by everything that comes hand in hand with lockdown.
For sure. Yeah.
Sort of, you know, mental kind of ups and downs, what's going on in the news. Like, I live with my boyfriend, like, you know, him getting under my feet, like, it, you know, it's, and I think that was like, that was kind of why I as well wanted to give myself like 2 days to write a song, because it felt like there was so many different things that were buzzing around the air that it was really difficult to focus. And so actually being like, right, today I'm going to talk about like police brutality, like, let's just try and get this out in a couple of days, and just think, like, and literally like ranting it out on the page, making a noise in my bedroom, and then sort of seeing where it goes, and then just thinking, right, next, let's crack onto the next one. Because there was just so much to try and sort of digest, I guess.
And I guess that's life to a certain extent. Like, there will always be like continuing events that draw our attention, but very well, not in my lifetime anyway. Do you have like a global pandemic followed by like a global kind of mass movement in the Black Lives Matter movement, followed by Brexit, followed by, it's just all these like cataclysmic events one after the other. It's just crazy.
And it's kind of you know, like, I guess, you know, I turned 32 this year. It's like, is this literally what it is now? Like, is this what being in your 30s is? Like, is it just like one thing after another?
That horrible phrase, the new normal.
Oh, that's horrible, isn't it? It's just
it's disgusting. I know.
It was good to let off a bit of steam this evening anyway.
I'm sure. On a brighter note, always try to end on a brighter note. I learned that from my first podcast, where I asked like the most depressing question ever to finish the episode, so I won't do that again. So what would you inspire someone else with? How would you go about inspiring someone else to kind of enter the world of music creation?
I would suggest always listening to that little person in the back of your head that says, fuck it, go on. Like, and I think that, like, a lot of people that I've like chatted to, I've got a lot of mates that are always like, oh, I really wished I'd, you know, picked up the guitar a bit more, or I just think, like, just do it. Like, there is, you know, it doesn't, you're not doing it to sell records, you're not doing it to it like, it's an itch that you just should absolutely scratch, and I think if you don't, you're just gonna you know, if you're in your 30s and you're thinking, oh, I wish I picked up the guitar, like imagine what it will be like when you're 60 and you're still thinking the same thing. Like,
exactly.
Just crack on. Like, I think like I definitely sort of had the fear of being a solo artist and going it alone. Like, I think, you know, when I come and play at gigs and I see bands turning up and there's all that really nice like camaraderie between them, and I'm sort of sat there on my own, like, oh, I wish I had a friend here. Like, it's like it can be quite daunting, but I think in another sort of sense, it's nice to have just thought, you know what, like, I'm gonna give it a go, and if it goes well, it goes well. If it doesn't, then at least I've given it a frigging go. Like, at least I have scratched that itch. So yeah, I think just do it. Like, we're going to be going into lockdown again, so just if there's a guitar staring at you in the corner of the room, then go and pick it up now.
That's true. Perfect opportunity. Yeah, just do it. I love it. Great. Thank you so much for your time, man, and thanks for coming and performing for us as well. Hopefully we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Hope to be back soon. All right, cheers, mate. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Round of applause to Mogan. On with Andrew Ogun. That rhymed. We're good.
Hey, Ben.
Hello.
How's it going?
Hi, man. You all right?
I'm good.
Just ambush you straight after coming off stage.
Yeah, literally.
How are you feeling? It's probably been a little while since coming off a stage like that.
The thing is, I've not actually, like, in general, I've not actually performed that much. I've not performed up to maybe 6 times or 5 times. So that was my first actual full set that I've ever done. So
no way.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. Obviously, a weird context to do it in, but it's a great feeling.
Yeah. You just need a crowd for the next one, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
You mentioned a couple of times in your set about Berlin and like playing the stuff out in Berlin. Like, did you live there? Do you like, what's that connection?
Yeah, so I did a year abroad in Berlin. I lived there for a year while I was studying, when I was doing my bachelor's degree. And yeah, like I left my heart and soul there. Like, that was like my I found my nirvana, my utopia. That was my place to be creative, and the people I met and the influences and what I saw was incredible, an incredible experience for me.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, because a lot of the questions I wanted to ask are about inspiration, really. Like, what's your inspiration and how you would inspire other people. So I guess Berlin is definitely a source of inspiration for you. I'm hearing.
It was definitely at the time. Definitely a lot of the EP, which I'm planning to release in January, was written and was kind of influenced by my time. My EP is called Flight Mode, so it was all about kind of being in transit, always being somewhere, and it was incredible. So I think that's a big influence in myself as a person. Definitely.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Before we get into like the inspiration stuff, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your writing process. And to be honest, it's completely foreign to me. Like, I come from like a kind of a punk background, like a more traditional, like guitars, drums, bass, all that kind of stuff. So how does writing a song work for you? Like, take what was the first track you played, the All That Jazz one? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, that was kind of like, so my friend who was performing with me, Anthony, we started making music actually in the group. So it was myself and him rapping, and we had a multi-instrumentalist called George Goom, who was doing the production for us. So that was very much probably in a similar manner as people in like bands make music. We were in a room in his bedroom with instruments, and everything was live that time.
That's cool.
It was nothing digital. That was kind of how we started making music. So I think we've always had that influence of our best music, me and him, come when we're both in the room together, feeding off each other. So that song, literally, we were just in Berlin, and I was just spinning beats, and that beat came up, and I kind of had that. I had that melody, that talking all that jazz. I always wanted to do something like that, so I was like, oh, yo, talking all that jazz, and I did the hook, and I was like, I don't want to rap on this. I just wanted to sing, because again, I'm not 100% confident in my singing. So that's one of the songs I did a tape. And we were like, oh, this is actually quite okay. I was like, I'm singing on this. So he was like, leave the room. So I left the room. I had like a little kind of balcony kind of thing. I left the room, came back, and he'd done the verse, and the song was just done like that, like drunk off wine. So in some of the best music we've made has been in those kind of just in 30 minutes, just us two in a room together, and boom. But I think when I'm not doing songs with him, like in terms of my own individual music, I think for me it depends. I'm a person that really, I work in bursts.
Right.
So I might have like a month where I'm writing all the time. The first thing that I do is write. So I'm writing all the time. I might have one line. Usually I always have like my opening line. I always have like my first 2 or 4 bars written down. If you probably listen to my music and you listen to the first bars, they're usually some of the most harder hitting ones, because they're kind of what I base the rest of the verse on.
Yeah.
I could have bars written on my phone for 8, 9, 10 months before I even do anything with them. So I think because I studied literature,
right,
and I also write poetry, because I come from quite a really wordy background. Sometimes I have a line, and instead of using it in my raps, I use it in some of my poems. Right. So I kind of work on more like on my lines, the lyrics, and then kind of think about the musicality of it after.
Right. So when a line like comes to you, say there's a line sitting on your phone, like, is it obvious to you quite often if that's going to be a poem or a rap or a song, or is it just kind of?
Sometimes I'm like, damn, like I love this line and it would be a good bar, but it would work better in a poem. And a lot of the times my lines that I use in poetry are lines that I would love to use in rap, but I feel like they just work in that medium of poetry more. So I leave them, and sometimes I'm kind of like, I kind of want to use this in my raps, but it's kind of better as a poem, and I have to forget about it. Yeah. So but yeah, I work in bursts, and then there'll be maybe like 3-4 months where I don't write a single word. I don't write a single thing down.
Does that stress you out, or you just let it happen?
It used to. Before I understood my own process properly, I felt like I had writer's block, but it wasn't that I was writer's block. It's like I need to live life to have substance to put in my lyrics. So it takes 3 months of me living before I can distill those experiences into my music, into my poetry. Then so be it. Yeah. So I kind of just have to honor my process and get used to my process, being like, this is how I work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't fix it if it ain't broke, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. It's funny you're talking about all that jazz again, where you said you just kind of had to leave it, like you left the room. Is it ever like a temptation in rap songs to kind of just throw as many words at it as you can? Is it just like filling it with like fast words, or is that not a thing for you?
Actually, I'm quite like I don't know, I'm quite thoughtful, I guess, with the lyrics and the words I use. I never want to like you only have a certain amount of bars, and someone's listening. I got to get them sold on who I am, on my music, on my art in 16 bars, 24 bars, 32 bars. So you don't really want to be wasting words or lines. So
no.
Maybe when sometimes if I'm freestyling, it's different, because then we're just throwing ideas out there. But when I sit down and I'm making a song, I won't force it. If I can't finish a song there and then, if I kind of get stuck on my writing, or I think maybe I should leave this and come back, I'll leave and come back. That's the thing. Sometimes I'll be doing a new song, I'll just scroll through my notes, look at all my bars, and I'm like, oh, here's something that fits on this. And so it's nice to leave stuff, let it kind of evolve and grow, and then come back to it sometimes.
Yeah,
with fresh eyes.
Yeah. So what inspired you, if you can remember, what inspired you to first start creating music?
I always say, like, I feel like musicality has always kind of been in me, because my grandfather used to make music before he doesn't do it anymore, but he was quite big in our area in Nigeria, Benin. So I always used to wonder, before I knew this information, because my family doesn't really have much of a creative background, and I'm really, really creative. So I always used to wonder, like, where does that come from? And it turns out that it's from my mother's father. So I think I always kind of had it in me, and music was always a big part, like most musicians, of my life growing up. All I used to ever watch was MTV and like seeing music videos. But I think really when I really thought I can do this, I think it was from Odd Future. I would say I was listening to Tyler, the Creator.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, during that period of time in my life, I must have been like year 9 times. And the only thing that would ever come to me anytime it got to the point where I would be listening to the music, and all that would be in my head was, I can do this. I know I can do this. And I didn't really understand why I had that inclination, but all I would see and be like, I would see the videos and be like, I can also do this. And I think that's when I kind of started writing. There was a website. I was speaking to a friend about this. I can't remember the name of the website. I don't have a clue, but basically you just put up your raps on there and like people kind of like discuss them and give you
yeah.
feedback and all of that. So I remember I went into the Wu-Tang name generator because I read that that's
Yeah.
where Childish Gambino got his name from.
Oh, was it? No way! I didn't know that.
Yeah, he got his name from a Wu-Tang name generator. So it comes up with really random names.
Yeah.
So mine was the Arrogant Ambassador.
The
I remember that was my name.
Ambassador.
So on that website, that was my rap name, Arrogant Ambassador. And I never told anyone about it, but I used to just write like a few bars and just put them on there, and like really random stuff. I can't remember any of the I just remember I did a sequence about profit in terms of money and profit, like being a prophet, and like everyone was like, "Whoa, this is incredible!" And I'm like, they're like, "Yo, I'm doing really well." So I started writing from there, and yeah, like I think once the first time I ever got into studio properly, so when I was like I was 16, 17 at the time, with Goom and my friend Anthony, we just kind of went from there, just threw myself in the deep end. I was like, yeah, cool. And at that point, I think it was more about the performance aspect than like flows and cadences, because my writing was really strong by then, just really generally strong, because I've been writing for a long time. I've been writing poetry. Obviously, I did literature, so I read a lot. I wrote a lot just in general. So when it got time to pick up the mic, I was already quite sharp lyrically. I just needed to kind of find my own voice, find my own delivery.
Yeah. Do you ever kind of get involved in the making of the beats as well, like the instrumentation side, or do you just work with people that do that?
Yeah, there was a point in time where I was kind of really keen to learn production, and there is a few of our older songs which I did produce myself. But I think as I've got older, I'm not really as invested in becoming a producer as I am as being like the best kind of musician artist as I can be.
Right.
But I love like I'm still very, because it kind of influences your sound. I'm still very vocal, and okay, I might not have the skills to do it, but I know what I want it to sound like.
How
so
you want it to
I'm
sound.
a producer, like, do this, do that, and I know what I'm talking about, so that's fine. Like, but more so than anything, a lot of my older stuff is only kind of recently that I've started getting like beats made and working directly with producers. A lot of my beats are just YouTube beats that I've bought and used, so I'm kind of moving away from that. Yeah.
Nice, man. So what inspires you right now to make music? Like what was the last thing that inspired you? Maybe the thing that inspired your last track, maybe.
The last thing I watched that inspired me to make music was the making of Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Oh yeah.
So I just watched it today. It's like a documentary, 36 minutes about the whole process. And I think that kind of, because I'll be honest, maybe 8-9 months ago, I was done with music. I was telling all my friends, like, I'm done, I'm retired. I was done. Like, literally. I think I went through a period of really serious like disillusionment. I was really kind of disillusioned with the commodification of music. Right. It really irritates me how I feel like it's kind of I'm speaking about kind of like in general, obviously not specifically to different artists doing their own thing, but I feel like a lot of rap music in the UK has just been watered down. And it really got to me. I was like, I don't want to even be in this industry when music is like this. I feel like people have really lost the idea of like craftsmanship and art behind the music. So I was just like, I was done. And then I think also kind of disillusionment within myself, just generally speaking. And I was like, and I kind of took it out on music. I was like, I'm done with music. But I'd rather focus on my poetry, focus on my writing, on my other stuff, focus on making clothes. And I don't want to do music anymore. And it really took me a real long time to kind of find my core again, find my chakra, find the reason I'm doing this in the first place. I was like, whether or not the scene or I believe the industries like this should have no influence on me, I could still do things in my own way.
Yeah, you can go against the industry.
Yeah, exactly. And I have great people around me that kind of they wouldn't let me retire even if I wanted to. So it should get my creative spark back. But a lot of the times when I'm in that period of time, my inspiration didn't really come from music. I was looking at artists that I love, Jean-Michel Basquiat, René Magritte, and kind of just consuming and watching a lot of movies, consuming other kind of art forms to kind of get my mojo back. I think because I'm kind of in this world of intersectionality where I do a lot of things art related, sometimes if I'm kind of not feeling inspired in one form, I tend to gravitate towards another, and it will give me like a fresh kind of approach then when I go back to the other art form. But recently, I've been inspired in general just of all the kind of art that's come out of COVID. I think the fact that living through a pandemic and there's still like people doing some great stuff, whether it be music, whether it be street art, whatever it is. And I find that very inspiring, that art is always there. Like, no matter what else is happening in the world, it's an anchor. There will always be art. There will always be artists. And I think that kind of got me back. Like, and also the tape that I'm working on, it's been 2 years in the making. So I've got to the point where I'm like, the world needs to hear this. Like, only a few people have actually heard it. And that kind of gave me my kickback. Like, okay, yeah, I'm back in the game.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Like, I do think the world needs to hear some of your stuff. I to be honest, I haven't heard you before that set now, but yeah, it's really good stuff, man. It needs to get out there.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
So, final question in like the inspiration circle, I guess. What would you say to inspire someone else to start creating music?
Focus on the art, man.
Yeah.
Everything else is just smoke and mirrors. Everything else is just noise. Sometimes we get bogged down by, who's really listening to me. I'm not getting enough plays, and this other person who we're in a similar boat, everyone's recognizing them, and they're not all this kind of jazz or this smoke and mirrors is nothing to do with that. We all have our own timing. We all have our own destiny. So make sure that your music is so good and your art is so good that the world can't afford to ignore it. That's what I would say to inspire someone.
Yeah,
focus on the craft, like take it back to the craft, make the best music you can possibly make, so that when you listen to that, this is the best music I can make, and people will see that. We just get impatient sometimes. I think we just get impatient.
And
So
people focus on the wrong things as well, like you say. The art, music is the craft, but somehow in the mainstream and in the world, music is just fame. It's fame and fortune, and it's rock stars and rap stars and all that sort of stuff. And people get into it for the wrong reasons. And like you say, they forget about the art, which is, it's tragedy, really.
Yeah. I always think bring it back to what it really should be about. And I think you can't go too wrong from that, definitely.
Yeah. Awesome. It's great words, man. Thank you so much for coming and performing for us, and for giving us a few more minutes to chat.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here, definitely.
No worries. Anytime. Yeah, we'll see you soon with a full crowd, hopefully.
Yeah, hope so. Thank you.
The fifth and final segment of the longest episode of Le Pod ever, Katie from CHROMA.
Hi Ben, you okay?
Hello, you alright?
I'm good. Thanks for staying up late to have a chat and stuff.
I know, it's weird. This is past my bedtime. Your set actually finished at a normal gig time, which is weird.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's mad. This is way past my bedtime as well. I'd usually be watching. What am I watching at the moment? Have you heard of Trailer Park Boys?
Yeah. I haven't seen it though.
Oh, it's class. It's really funny. I would highly recommend. It's anyway.
What, recommend it over watching your set?
Depends
Close.
on the day of the week. Yeah.
How was it to be back on the stage anyway?
It was really, really nice. It was weird. I kind of I think I'm a bit more unfit than I used to be. Like playing gigs. I've not been playing gigs for months now, or a bloody year. So I've just been sat on my ass watching TV. So so I had a bit of a stitch, which took me by surprise. But it was fucking awesome.
Cardio. Class. It was great. I was watching the stream and it was proper good. Yeah, it was really good.
Oh, thank you.
That's all right. You didn't play my favorite song though, so it wasn't a perfect set. I like Nostar Susana.
Oh fuck! I'm sorry. I think we were meant to play.
But I know.
I love that song too. We were meant to play it, but we were very excited to play new stuff, so we bumped it off.
Yeah,
we were I'll play a new one. But yeah,
that's fair. Next time. That's all right. I won't take it personally this time. So, I've been asking people kind of almost set questions, really, all the artists, just to kind of see what the different responses are and stuff. And mainly it's about the songwriting processes and then inspiration. So in CHROMA, how do you guys go about writing a song? What's your process?
I So we're massive jammers, so we all kind of like
Oh yeah.
do our like individual bits because there's only 3 of us. It's quite like easy to do your own little bit, and then kind of someone has an idea like in a kind of practice session, and then we kind of build off that. So for me, I kind of do like the lyrics and the top line melody usually. So I've got always a few ideas in the back of, you know, my little back pocket, being like, oh, hello.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like me and the boys, what we usually do is kind of someone will have an idea and we'll build off their idea and we'll kind of jam it out. Then we do like voice recording, so we like record it and then listen back to it, and then by the next practice we kind of, it's like fine tuning like everything and stuff. So it was really bloody difficult when
Right.
this all lockdown shit happened, because like a lot of our
Yeah, yeah.
songwriting like happens when we're not together. So it's like
Yeah.
shit. So we had like a kind of like a 6-month period of not doing anything, which was wild really. But yeah, it was kind of like when once we were all kind of back together, a lot of like the songs that we were gonna record and stuff for the new album, we were like, yeah, not good enough. I've got this new idea I'm most excited about now. So a lot of that's been going on, and I feel like now it's you know, exciting to be like in a position where you've got songs that you're really, you know, confident and excited about. Like, yeah, it's kind of like I feel like a teenage boy, like really excited to go on my first night out and stuff, because I haven't been out ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet you must be though, because you said during the performance just then that your album recording got cancelled twice, yeah?
Yeah. So
That's a nightmare. So you got all the tracks ready to go and you've just been stolen from you twice.
yeah. So like the first time it was cancelled, it was like, I don't know, it was some like, it was like the producer that we were meant to be working with wasn't available or something. And so that was kind of cancelled. And to be honest with you, the first time it was cancelled, we were like, no, it's fine, you know, we'll have more time to kind of do stuff. And then it got cancelled again, and then we were like, oh, shit. So we were like sitting on these tracks for ages, and it's like it's really like, as a musician, when you're like sitting on tracks for ages that are not even recorded, like when you're recording them, that's like the most exciting bit. Like then you're sitting on the tracks
For sure.
before you release them. It's like, you know, it's like not even been sorted yet, but yeah, we're really excited to
Yeah.
go back into the studio because we're just itching for it really. But yeah,
I
we're gonna be
bet.
like
Yeah, it's
kids in a
hard
class.
because yeah, like from my experience in songwriting, it's like I'm always on to the next thing. Like even if we've come up with something that we're really proud of, like it's just natural to just go on to the next thing. So just being stuck
Yeah.
with unfinished tracks and unfinished business must be not ideal to say the least.
Yeah. And it's like kind of like for us particularly, we like, because there's only 3 of us, and like we can do like a little bit of production like to a certain degree, but we like working with a producer. We like having that other person like as a 4th member of the band type thing, to kind of,
Yeah.
there's something that you know we like, because it's reassuring, and it's like someone can build on your baby really. But yeah, and
Mhm.
that is really frustrating, but you know, what can you do when there's people dying and stuff around the world? You can't be too precious about these things, can you?
No, that's true. It's exactly. Yeah, you just have to hold on to that perspective. Like, oh, no, I can't go out to a gig. Yeah, right. Big deal. Great. There's definitely people out there that've got it worse. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, s- so what inspired, I guess, so what inspired you individually to start kind of writing music? And then what was the kind of origin with CHROMA as well?
I think like for me personally, like I I remember as a kid like playing games and stuff where I'd write songs. Like I generally have
Oh,
a
wow.
memory as being like a little girl, like running around my garden on my own, pretending I was in a music video and stuff. So like I've always kind
No
of,
way.
yeah, I know, it's really weird. But like yeah,
That's
so
cool.
I've always like done like songwriting, but like do you when you're a bit like coy about it and you're like, oh yeah, no, that's not what I'm doing. Like
Yeah, where it's
so
not quite cool yet.
yeah, it's really difficult like as an artist or whatever to be like, yes, I am a musician type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I joined CHROMA. I think it was in my first year of uni, and I knew Bev from school. So Bev was like, I don't know, I just messaged him. I just slid into his DMs, being like, "Oh, Beth, what are you doing? I'm seeing you for ages. You fancy having a jam sometime?" And then he was like, "Actually, I've got this new band that we're looking for a female singer for." And I was like, it was very and weird, and I was like, all right, okay, fine, I'll come to your garage. Me thinking like I haven't seen him for years, like what's going on? What's he gonna try and do? Don't tell him that. But, yeah, no, so I turned up and Bev and Zach had basically been in a band before, and
Okay.
everyone had gone off to do their separate kind of things and stuff, and both of them were working on a project together. And I remember walking in and being like, "Where's your guitar?" Because he just had faith in me. And he was like, "No, I can do everything
yeah.
with this." And I was like, "I think you need a guitarist, Bev."
So even you were skeptical at the start.
I'm constantly skeptical.
You're still
No, I'm not.
skeptical.
But I was like, "Where's your guitarist?" And then I don't know, it was weird because when we started, I think I just needed like something like which wasn't uni, which wasn't, my job, which wasn't, I just needed to bloody express myself. But like
Yeah, a bit of a distraction.
yeah, like music is so powerful for that. Like you get so much in like such a buzz and all the endorphins and stuff like after playing like any type of gig really. But like yeah, like
Yeah, yeah.
so like I think it's been like massively life changing and stuff in that sense. But like I don't know, it's weird because like the boys like they weren't like, oh yeah, that's shit, or they'd never say that, like, you know what I mean? They're like, oh yeah, just run with it.
Yeah.
And like I just felt really comfortable and like safe in that space, and I think that's like really important.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you and your bandmates have got like that kind of relationship and stuff, which is like like kind of beyond, it's almost like you're kind of brother and sister or whatever, like sometimes
Mm-hmm.
like in the
Oh,
sense
sure.
that
Family bonds.
yeah, like when we're going to the studio next month now, we're going to do like a Christmas dinner and stuff because we're all going to be locked up there together. Fingers crossed it doesn't get
Oh, right.
again. I'm going to do
Yeah.
like the gift
Third
exchange.
time's the charm.
I know. If it gets cancelled again, literally, I don't know what I'll do.
It's not meant to be. Just shelve it and move on.
I'll be like, I'm gonna have to learn how to bloody produce now.
Put on that hat instead.
Yeah. But
That's
yeah,
funny that the boys you were looking for, you said a specifically female singer,
yeah,
because I've spoken to Zach recently. Well, not recently, I don't know, at some point, but you were saying that it's like it can be annoying sometimes where you're pegged as a band with a female singer. Like
yeah.
you're a singer, you're a band. Like why is that like a selling point kind of thing? It's almost annoying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, like I totally agree. And it's like kind of as much as, for me, like feminism and that is like a massive sticking point, and like we talk about it a lot in like our songs, but when you're like a band which is like the female singer, it's just like it's kind of like separating bands. Like, no, I'm just in a band, I just make music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's really, it happens a lot like in rock and stuff, and I feel like female musicians absolutely should be celebrated and absolutely should be empowered, but I think that kind
For
of
sure.
the divide is like part of the problem, like
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, female singer bands, it's not a fucking genre, it's not a genre. I am a rock
No.
musician. I'm a good
Yeah,
French
the same as
person.
anyone else can be.
yeah.
This
Like,
othering is like almost like a subconscious lessening. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
oh yeah, the
no.
singers, and then there's female singers.
There's the female singers, and it's just like, I don't know, like the kind of, boys with their guitars and stuff, like kind of, playing like Regin and Lee's playing the same fucking shit. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's
Mhm.
refreshing to come from a different background and to be a bloody, a chick in that space. Like, you know what I mean? I think that's quite powerful, but definitely it is frustrating, and I do hope it does change. But like, also I'm like, I am a woman at the end of the day. I am a woman. I am
Yeah.
different. Like, my experience is different to any boy with a bloody guitars band. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
everyone is their own individual. But like, yeah, no, it is annoying. Like, and I can see why the boys in the band get annoyed by it, because at the end of the day, like, music is music, and like, I know, and I don't want to be cocky about it, but like, my music is fucking good. So like,
Yeah.
well, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it is anyway.
Too right.
So it's just like, I don't
No,
know,
it is.
why would you put me in that block, And it's difficult,
Yeah.
particularly when people are like booking tours and stuff, and I would love to like support these great bands that I love and stuff, and I go to loads of gigs and that, and I turn up, and then there's just like the kind of like the same shit like supporting them, you know what I mean? And I'm like, you should have a
Yeah.
girl on up there, and you're just like, I could do a better fucking
Yeah.
job than that. I'm being really cocky
Yeah.
now. I feel like Liam Gallagher.
But mate, you just came off stage. Like, you
I
deserve
know,
it.
yeah.
It seems like a very like specific problem to rock music, though. You know what I mean? Like, in like mainstream pop music or whatever, you would never refer to, like, I don't know, Adele or Beyonce or Ariana Grande as like a female singer or whatever. Like, they're just a singer. They're just a singer-songwriter. They're just a musician. Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, like, women dominate pop, like absolutely
They do.
annihilate pop, and it's amazing. And it's just like, why is like rock got something against me? You know what I mean? Like, well, not got something
Yeah.
against me, but like, why is it gotta why does this have to be, this way? Like, if anything, the fact that, I play rock music is bringing a new group of people, like, it's opening doors to like other people who don't necessarily listen to rock music. And it's like
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of treading on the grounds of like indie and stuff, and indie is cool, and I feel like you should mix and match genres as much. But like, yeah, no, you're definitely right, it is a particular problem with rock, like that thing with the Regin and Leeds lineup, like, where they kind of smudged out
Yeah.
the thing. Like, why is that gonna happen again? You know what I mean? Like, why it, like, you can just, like, they should do a fact check before they, like, book everything and be like, right, okay, maybe we can
Yeah.
get
Something's off. Yeah.
yeah, like, kind
Yeah.
of, and particularly with those big festivals as well, I think, like, you get so many kids from like different backgrounds, and there's not all boys going to like Regin and Leeds, it's women as well, and
No.
it's quite like a 50-50 split, like, but you need, like, people going to those festivals, like young, like teenagers going to those festivals, need to see a bloody woman on stage, like, not
Yeah.
just for like the music's sake, but for, I feel like, the world generally. I think it's really important. But I do think, people are trying, but like, for me, like, I would want to be in that position off my own merit, because my music is good and people want to see me play it.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
I think, like, kind of, but like, equally, I know that there are bands out there which are fronted by women who are just as good as the other people who are booked. And I think, like, that's something
Yeah, for
that
sure.
could be worked on,
Yeah. That's the thing when the Reading and Leeds, like the 50-50 split, we want 50%
Yeah.
male, 50% female. Like, if I was a female in a band, I wouldn't want to be booked just because I was a female, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Like, I would find that so like offensive. Yeah.
Yeah,
But there is there's definitely like progress to be made.
I definitely think like people like bands don't get booked because they're women, but like definitely there's like a misogyny behind it where people turn around and be like, oh yeah, you're on the bill because you're taking a box, type of thing. I think for me
diversity quota or whatever.
That is absolutely infuriating. Like it's absolutely infuriating because I'm like, oh mate, like, chill out, like kind of like, you know what I mean? Like I'm just like, okay, all right, hen, fine, whatever. But yeah, like kind of go have your sausage fest elsewhere, thing.
Enjoy.
I don't want to be part of your party. But yeah, I don't know. I think like that's a small bit of the argument. I think it's a small bit of the argument. On a bigger scale, it's like, yeah, there are, women in bands out there which are good enough, and you should give them the time of day.
So book them. Yeah.
Bloody book them. Book me.
Yeah, simple as. Find them, listen to them, and book them. Simple.
Yeah, and just give them bloody go, innit? Like.
Yeah. But changing lanes slightly then, going back to like the inspiration thing. So what inspires you right now? You, again, individually and as a band?
That's a very good question. I think like for me individually, I don't know, it's just like I love listening to people's conversations and like stuff that people just say, and like I'll kind of dwell on it and I'll just be like, oh yeah, that can be a lyric, I'll just take that, thank you, and like build on it that way. But like for kind of like our songs and stuff, I think like kind of mental health and like kind of struggling with like depression and being isolated, I think like has been like it's been really inspiring, like how people treat each other like in this time. And I think like for us, like music particularly, like it's a way of getting like angst and like getting the shit out, type of thing. So I think that's the process of like getting the shit out has been quite like inspiring and stuff. Like in our kind of new songs that we've kind of written and stuff, like each one talks about a different type of thing. We haven't got like a lot of stuff that kind of repeats itself or whatever. Like they're similar themes, but I feel like every song is different. Like one of the songs that we played tonight was called I Don't Want to Go Out, and it's about like not wanting to go out. But the hook came from me and my boyfriend being on the bus, and I was just like, I don't want to go out, but I'm going out anyway. And we were just like, do you any like so like we were just like kind of like just singing, I don't want to go out, but I'm going out anyway. So it was just like a joke. Like,
you were literally like singing that on the bus, was it?
On the bus, so like into like my phone, like to my mates. Like me and my boyfriend were like, I don't want to go out, but I'm going out anyway. So we were like, oh god. So it's about like kind of nights out and stuff, and like kind of just you just don't want to go out, but you end up having a hell of a night type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's about that. But then you got like songs like the last one that we played, and it's about like really missing being home, like in Aberdeen and stuff, because I don't feel like the last period, like not kind of seeing my mum and dad for ages, or not seeing people which are like kind of like, I live in Cardiff, but I'm a Valleys girl, type of thing. And I feel like Bev has been the same because he's been like stuck in Cardiff and like not being able to go back and stuff. And you're like, it's about like whenever anyone calls like the Valleys like shit or whatever, you're like, that's my shit all. You can fuck off. You know what I mean? And like I don't. Yeah. So it's kind of a lot of, I feel like we've put like our heart and our souls into like this record in like different kind of ways, and I don't know, I feel like the current kind of like climate at the moment with, I don't know, like loads of people believing in Welsh independence and like supporting Welsh independence and realising how like a Tory government is bad news for Wales, and I think that's something that like the pandemic has taught people. It's just like those gits next door. Like how I've always like really disliked the Conservatives, and that's my personal opinion. But I think like what's happened, particularly to families on low income and people who have been completely isolated, and the NHS and everything else in the past kind of couple of months, and like what they've done to like, I don't know, venues and art as well, it's just like eroded it. And I feel like there's a bit of angst, and like there's a bit of my frustration like sprinkled on top of that. But
for sure, that makes perfect sense.
yeah.
Like it almost works together as well. Like you were first saying that music is like a release for all that angst and the feelings forged by all those things, but it also it's like a platform. You can speak about those things, you can kind of share ideas and develop ideas in the songs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's important. Like music you don't need to preach in music, and you don't need to do that.
No.
Sometimes you just want to chill out and listen to a song about going out. But sometimes it's really important to use your own artistic platform to shout and scream about these things, because like I feel like it affects so many people, and like that's why like feminism and socialism and just like not being a CUNT, like that's like the three messages like that I want to come across in our music. And it's not really thought through really, but you just got all these things going on in your head, and you just want to get them out.
Just get them out. Yeah. I liked what you said during the stream as well, though, and you kind of said it as just a throwaway comment where you said, if you're not enjoying it, you can switch off. And like it's true for all kinds of art and all kinds of music. Like you were saying, like sometimes you don't want to hear a song that's about politics and about these deep issues and stuff. If you don't want to listen to it, turn off or skip the track, and then maybe one day when you're in the mood for it, come back to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like personally, like kind of like in the past kind of couple of days, I've not been listening to flipping punk music. I've been listening to Ariana Grande.
Yeah.
I need something to give me a lift,
Yeah.
Like
time and a place for
sure. There is a time and a place, absolutely. But I think it's important to do, and I think like people are receptive to it, which is important. You know? Yeah. But
yeah. So I don't want to steal much more of your evening. Like we said, we started past our bedtimes. So just one more question.
That's all right.
What would you kind of give as a form of inspiration to someone else? How would you inspire someone to start writing music and get into this showbiz game?
Oh,
showbiz game. That was a terrible thing. I wish I hadn't said that.
Show business is dead. The Tories have taken it from there. I'm sorry.
They've stolen it and killed it.
Stolen it. What I would say is think you're the shit and you will become the shit. I think I think
that's class.
You know what I mean? Like you need to like don't worry about anyone else, just be a nice person. Just be a nice person and be polite and don't be a dick. I feel like if you wanted to start, if you've got an idea and you've got like kind of a project ready, just be approachable and lovely, and like anyone, like any venue, any like people like Le Pub and yourselves will be happy to support you in whatever music or whatever thing that you want to do. But if you just thinking about writing a song, I would say don't be shy, just do it, and don't overthink it. Like I feel like music, you should do it for yourself more than like it should be from the heart, and do it for yourself as like a form of like meditation. Like it's an outlet, and if you want to live on the stage, Think you're the shit, and you will become the shit.
Believe and you will achieve.
Believe and achieve. Yeah.
Well, I think we'll end it there. That's perfect inspiration. I hope people, take it on board and just get involved, get out there, get it done.
Absolutely, and go to other people's gigs as well, and like just show your face.
Yeah.
And kind of chat to other musicians and stuff. And musicians are lovely. I feel musicians are, nice people usually.
Yeah, I speak to them all the time. Yeah, they're great. There's a couple of dicks, but yeah, for the most part, they're great.
They're great. They're not bad.
Yeah, exactly.
I like talking to dicks sometimes because I'm just like, ooh, this is fun.
Maybe I'll get a song out of this.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a song out of this, or like I'll just tell you to fuck off. I'm sorry, that was. I'm just buzzing, but anyway.
All right, I'll leave you go be buzzing with your band. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for coming to perform as well.
No worries. Thank you for having us. Hopefully, I'll see you again in real life.
Yeah, for sure. In a crowd full of people. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, rubbing themselves against each other.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Cheers, Kate. I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Ta-da. Bye.